Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel on YouTube, where Kahuna and I have got the TNT takes for you on the challenge. That's right, we're back. It's the challenge 39. We're still looking and searching for that new champion. Kahuna, do you feel like we found them after this episode?
After this specific episode?
After this specific episode.
I do know one thing for sure, Chris, and I'm going out on a limb here. This is a hot take, a TNT take, is that one of the people left in there will be the champion.
Wow. You heard it here first, everyone. We will have a new champion by the end of the season. Kahuna going out on a limb here with his predictions. I was very impressed by the young Kyland this episode. Once again, getting it done over a champion, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about it quite a bit on the live here. We've got a lot of people jumping in the live, and I just, again, want to say thank you. I know I say this every single week, but we really appreciate people jumping in the live. We're really appreciating all the love that we are getting from people viewing our content. I actually just told Kahuna before we went live, this last episode that Cara Maria turned back, it was the Cara Maria show. She came back on to the challenge. We had a record between myself and Kahuna for how many views we had on that recap. I think we got 1,500 views, which for us, normally when we get the Trinity together, you know, if it's myself, Angel Cake, and Chantel, we do get to about 2,000 views. But Kahuna, I'm pretty proud of that. We had a smashing week, and I feel like Cara Maria had something to do with it. Is Cara Maria now your favorite as well?
Yeah,
pressure.
I mean, Cara Maria has always been a favorite of mine, if not one of the most. But when she can bring 1,500 views to the episode, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Cara Maria is the favorite of the Nullified Take channel now. Let's say hello to everyone. Chris in the live. Hello, Chris. Welcome back to the live. Peter's here, and he got here early, not to miss a thing, because he has some serious thoughts about this episode. I can't wait to hear what they are. Lovable Nikki, welcome back to the live. Elise is in the live as well. And what would a live be without Danica? Let's be honest. Danica is probably out there driving somewhere, but she is in the live. She's here on time. We've got Joanne also in the live. Joanne, welcome back. Really appreciate seeing you back here in the live. And Willie, not late, right on time. Chris says the people know that the Nullified Take is where they can come for Cara Maria news. That's why everybody came to watch our take last week. Chris says 30 seconds in and I'm already sick of Kahuna. Kahuna, what did you say? I don't know what you did. What did you say?
That there's a champion in the season.
All right. Richard, hello. Welcome to the live all the way from South Africa. And we've also got Kiwi here saying hello to everyone. Brian saying, well, we know it's not Jay, Michelle, or Asaf bringing the views. Yep, that is correct. That is correct. I've got a theory about Jay watching this episode. Kahuna, like I've always been a Jay fan from Survivor days. I used to be a Jay fan. I like Jay when he made the transition over to the challenge, but it was a lot easier to shout for Jay when he was an underdog compared to now being the top dog, the guy that's running the game. And that's not, you know, Jay alone. I think that happens with a lot of people. Like when they're the underdog, when they're fighting against the house, you can kind of get behind them a little bit more. But Jay this season, I don't know, he's a bit annoying, like, to be honest. Like, even in this episode where he's like, oh, we're running the game and all this, and as soon as he hears his name is on the block, he becomes confrontational and goes up to Kyland like, oh, you know, I'm not scared of you like the other boys. I won't back down. It's like, what is he trying to do? Like, what is he trying to prove? It felt like short man syndrome to me when he did that.
That's power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? Like, as soon as it seems like anyone in the game, like last week I talked about how Cara Maria went on her, you know, underdog voyage to the point where she ended up on one season, and then, you know, producers stopped her, but one season where she had all the power and ran the show and kind of got on the bad side of viewers as well. So it seems like once people get that little taste of safety, that little taste of power, it goes to their head and they're like, they want to run it. And that's how we end up with Michelle and Jay running the show this season, how we end up with Vacation Alliances other seasons. Like, you do the smart thing, end up in a strong alliance, and you kind of have to try, at least attempt to run the game like they are. It is kind of boring because I feel like Jay is also not, when he was coming across to Survivor, making that transition, I feel like he had a lot of potential. He came out hot with he beat CT in Elimination, which we heard about 400 times in the last few episodes.
Really? He beat CT? No way.
But I feel like he hasn't really excelled like maybe some people thought or hoped that he would. And now that he's a couple seasons in, hasn't done what he was supposed to do. And now that he actually is, people are like, oh, it's, when anyone runs a game, when there's not that conflict, when it's kind of going one-sided, when there's a pagongi, it is a bit boring. It is.
Yeah.
And Jay's boring
Predictable.
by the fact that he's on the side that's doing it at the moment,
I can't remember who said this last week, and I'm definitely stealing from our live audience here, but someone said last week that the reason we're struggling to get behind some of these newbies, Tory came to mind, and we're not going to go into a whole Tory segment again on this podcast. But they talked about the fact that it feels like they're kind of manufacturing these new legends. They're manufacturing people that we should love and care for. Like Jay is kind of being manufactured as like the new Johnny Bananas, the person who's running the game, who's now putting this big alliance together, and he's got all these friends in the house. But it doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like he's gone through enough seasons working his way up the hierarchy, because they had to remove a bunch of legends, a bunch of veg for him and Michelle to be at the top. And I know this episode, there was someone who even said that in a normal episode, they would have already been targeted by now. But because there is no vets, they are technically the vets. They are technically the people that have now got all these connections. So they're running the game, but it was given to them. It was handed to them. They've not earned it, the right way. So let's have a look at what some people are saying here in the live. Joanne is saying not the short man syndrome with a dead skull emoji. I will say this, I've got a lot of friends that are short, and I remember going to clubs was always a lot of fun with them because they always felt like they needed to get involved to prove themselves. It's the peacock in them that comes out when they're in the club, and give them like one or two alcoholic beverages, combine that with being short. It never ends well for anyone, is all I'm going to say. Lena here says, never cared for Jay. He always seemed to find enjoyment doing others dirty. Michaela, remember, I actually I love Michaela, and I felt bad for her in that moment, but I thought that was one of Survivor's best moments. Like, if you had to, again, do, top moments at Tribal Council, that was up there where she looked at him and was like, you? And he's like, yeah. Coldly looking her in the face. And I still enjoyed him up until that point. I still enjoyed him as a bit of an underdog, as a little bit of an agent of chaos. But power doesn't look good on him. Having power at this stage, freaking out like he did this episode, didn't enjoy it. Pete says, my 70-year-old mother watched him and said, I quote, I thought it was Michelle who was the meltdown bitch, but Jay takes the cake. So even the 70-year-olds are not enjoying him. Shout out to your mother, Pete, because I feel like she is on the money there. Michelle kind of disappeared a little bit this episode. Not much content from her. Elise said, I had no clue Jay beat CT one time. Danica says, they obviously don't think about how they are portrayed, or they probably wouldn't act the way they do. A lot of people very shocked about Jay beating CT here in the live. Never heard that before. Brian says, Jay comes across as trying to crossplay real challenges and champs. It came across very contrived and disingenuous. Yeah, didn't feel real to me. Elise says, I don't think Jay beat CT. I only believe Jay says it 50 more times. And Chris says, I support the Short Kings, not Jay, though. I've got nothing against the Short Kings either. I'll be honest. There's no hate or anything from my end in regards to that. I'm just saying that sometimes they can be a lot. They feel like they need to prove themselves a little bit more or something. And I don't know what's going on with Jay this season, but let's talk a little bit about Michelle. Michelle took a massive backseat after beating Cara Maria last episode. She kind of said that she did it for herself. She now feels like she's in the game. She can win this whole thing. There's a little bit of a swagger in her step. Can anything go wrong for Michelle at this point? Because she is definitely the queen bee at this stage in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the writing is, or at least the start of the writing on the wall, where we're starting to see little hints that, obviously, with Jay melting down and people sort of dropping, you said last week, we've been waiting for multiple weeks on end, multiple episodes where people are like, this game's finally gonna flip. People, the house is gonna be turned upside down for 4 weeks running. But I do think we've only got one champion left and still another 6 or 7 episodes, I think, maybe 5 episodes, who knows? I don't know, but somewhere in that ballpark, and there's gonna be stuff happening. So I'm wondering if maybe the likes of a Colleen and, we'll actually start seeing, hey, maybe the house does need to flip. Obviously, the way it's been going down in the sand, the numbers keep coming back into the house. There's nothing literally changing at all. for 3 episodes in a row. So, you know, maybe people will start going, yeah, Michelle and Jay, like that power dynamic. Let's take a shot at it. I'm hoping anyway.
I mean, it's been developing for a long time now. The story has been building up, and it feels like they're teasing us every single episode that, yes, there's going to be this counter alliance. We're going to get the rest of the house together to go against the Jays and the Michelles of this world that have not felt the pressure this season. But every single time, they don't follow through. And, you know, hats off to the players that are actually coming together and that are putting their vote to the right place to try and upset the apple cart. But Colleen comes to mind as someone. Is she playing a great game? You brought her up. Is she playing a great game? Potentially, but she's also potentially just going to be cannon fodder when that alliance finally needs to cut someone. She's at the bottom. She's not making a move. She's not standing with the other side of the house here. Probably doesn't help that Nerys didn't end up voting with that part of the house as well. And we can definitely talk about her not voting with that part of the house in a bit. But focusing on Colleen right now, I feel like she's playing the best strategic game that she can at this stage. But to me, she's boring TV because she doesn't follow through. She doesn't like, she's got this, I'm going to make a move. I'm going to go up against, I know I'm low. Jay, will you protect me? Oh, you're not going to protect me. I'm going to go for you. But every single time they should be playing the music womp, womp, after the episode because she doesn't do anything.
Especially because Jay told her to her face.
Yeah.
Like they had a conversation and he said, like, if Raven's safe, then you're next. Like you're at the bottom. Like you're not right at the bottom, but you're kind of at the bottom. And he told her, and still, nothing. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like someone tells you to your face, like
I
will
have
vote
to
for you if
always.
you're next.
These days, I have to. I don't know. This sounds so bad. We were accused for hating Olivia. Oh, I think it probably was me because I was pretty harsh on Olivia last week, and we were accused in the comment section below for hating on Olivia. I just want to make it clear. I don't care enough about any of these people to hate them. Like, you need to care to a certain level to hate on people that is on a reality TV show. I'm not at that level, right? So no hate to anyone, but I can comment on what I'm seeing from an edit perspective because I'm the paying customer that needs to watch the show, Kahuna. I've got an opinion, and the opinion matters of the paying customer. When Colleen is on the screen, I kind of tune out. Like, I have to concentrate extra hard to take notes because it's just, okay, it's the same old, nothing's going to happen here. Unless she comes in and she actually follows through in the future in one of the episodes, I'm taking less and less note of what she's saying in these confessionals. So just keeping it real like Raven on here, you know?
That's real. Like, like I agree with you. It's kind of like she's a gorgeous woman. She's obviously very smart. She seems like she would be good on certain versions of TV, but what we're getting is just like wallpaper. Like it's just like, what do you I do like though, you mentioned hating someone requires a certain level of care, that there's a passion in the negative direction. Does that mean that Lovable Nikki and Chris actually really care about me?
Oh,
I'll take that as a positive.
Are you trying to do like a reverse psychology thing here on Lovable Nikki and Chris? But funny you mentioned that. Lovable Nikki doesn't just take shots at you, also taking some shots here, but Chris thinks he's me. I just told someone today that I do not have the ability to hate people that I do not care about. I choose to believe great minds think alike.
She does care about me.
Let's have a look at what other people are saying here. Danica saying Colleen is dull. She has potential, but I wonder if it's a language barrier. Berna is more exciting than Colleen, which is shocking to me. Berna has more fun meltdowns. Plus, Berna is the one that is stopping people from hooking up in the house. So is she really better? Like, I feel like we should be promoting hookups in a season that is as stale as this one, not stopping it from happening, Berna. You should. I bet your production's not impressed with that. Do you reckon production would want someone on the show that keeps stopping these hookups from happening, or do you think that she's kind of like the person who keeps everybody in order in the house? I feel like production would want the messiness.
I think they got the positive out of it. They got one night where they could edit a couple of like cock blocks into the show. Like everyone laughed at Berna. Here's what she did. Isn't she weird? But if it kept going every night and she's just playing like door Nazi kind of stopping people, I don't think production would appreciate it. But I think they really liked that they got their funny little montage of clips that they could put together. But they're like, all right, chill now.
Kiwi here says, totally agree, but she also knew before the vote that they didn't have the numbers, so didn't want to show her hand when it would make no difference. She was still happy to have conversations with people on the other side of the house. I think reality realness,
one of the
welcome.
reasons why?
Well, let's have a look at reality realness's comment here. Chantel, welcome back to the live here, saying Colleen needed to stand her ground and choose the new alliance. Now neither side will be willing to fight for her. So I feel like overall, I said maybe this is playing the right game, but you kind of you're backing the alliance that have told you to your face you're right at the bottom. Like only Raven is ahead of you, and in that case, some people may say Raven is being too direct here by choosing a side, but Raven knows she's at the bottom. She knows she is next.
Yeah.
At least she's willing to make a move. But when it comes to Colleen not being willing to make a move, when she knows she's next after Raven, that to me is just, it's shocking. It's shocking that she didn't choose to go in the other direction here.
I mean, I'm hoping that like at some point you're constantly, or you should be constantly assessing where you are in the game, right? And I'm like, you would hope that if you're making this decision, then maybe she's seen something. Maybe she's seen something that like she thinks she can find a crack. She thinks she can find a way in. But I feel like at this point of the game, looking at who you're standing against / with, like you look at the relationships of a Jay, Michelle, etc. You have to know you're not like penetrating that alliance. You are at the bottom. You're in the alliance, but you are at the bottom of it. And as long as you keep knowing where you are, you should be able to make the moves. And maybe she's looked at it and go, there's still a way in. I don't know. I doubt it. Like anyone looking at it should be able to tell, nope, I'm not getting into this alliance and make an appropriate decision. But I'm hoping they're kind of doing the maths on it. You know what I mean? And calculating somewhat, but I doubt it. I'm not sure based on what we've seen,
Yeah, I mean, listen, we spoke enough about Colleen, probably more than what we should have in this recap and review. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that were going on here. Jay had a clear plan coming into this episode. He wanted to target two of the stronger guys in the game, which were both Horacio and Kyland. Those are the people that he were after coming into this episode. Obviously, it works out in a way where the daily gives power to the right people. Horacio gets sabotaged. And maybe we dive into that a little bit next year. What did you think about this? It's not new to the challenge. It's not a new concept that you're in a team where you get sabotaged, but he did end up with, who was it, Michelle and Asaf in that team, and then also Colleen. Colleen kind of tried a little bit throughout that to do something, but Asaf and Michelle...
the presentation of trying, like made it look like maybe she attempted, whereas Michelle and Asaf didn't even...
And this was
they didn't even get out of the water.
This was the perfect daily challenge to do it, right? Because they were inside of this tanker.
No one can see.
It's not like anybody can see them, like, throwing it. Horacio's on top of it, can't see what they're doing below. Clearly, Horacio was annoyed by this, but it's kind of funny because just prior to this daily, Nerys had a conversation. She had a heart-to-heart with Horacio saying, hey, you got to put in an effort. You got to try and work with people. And he's like, nah, I'm just going to win dailies. I'm just going to win eliminations if I need to. That's just how I'm going to play the game. Well, this clearly shows you do need to have a social game as well. You can't, very few people can just consistently beast their way to the end and win the game. It has been done. I mean, people have done it recently. Chris Underwood comes to mind, as someone that has done that. And I know there's been other seasons where people have been able to do it, but it's very rarely that you see someone beasting their way to the end. So it kind of shows that Horacio is really, like, I like him more because he's such an underdog at the moment and they're targeting him. I think we were talking about him being pretty boring not that long ago, and he hasn't really become more entertaining, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend at the moment. And Jay and Michelle is annoying me at the moment as the power couple in the house. So I kind of want Horacio to do better. And it was frustrating to see this whole thing play out in the daily, even though I know that this is a challenge staple that you can sabotage people.
It's part of the game. Like, unfortunately, and that shows why social connections is so integral to success in the game as well. It's part of it. You can't just beast your way, even if you could. Circumstances like this come up where things are out of your control, where social dynamics play a part. And one of the frustrating things for me is that Horacio doesn't see that. Like, I know he's playing with integrity or whatever, but I feel like he's almost wasting his opportunity or potential, or at least starting himself, -5 or whatever it is, a few steps behind where he needs to be. And he's very good, and like they made him the face of the show this season. Like he's the
Right
front
at the
and
front.
center of the thing. He's a good looking dude. He's nice. He's very good at challenges. He feels like he should be the total package. And if he just added that one element, like he would be, right? Like his game would be so well rounded if he could really get over the social dynamic and realize that it's not a solo game, despite it being a solo game. He has all that there, and what's so frustrating is he chooses to be dumb about it. Like that's what I don't like, is when people like, why are you making a decision that is going to hurt you when you have the potential and the chance here to do something like not many in the show actually have the chance of doing. We're looking at across, there's still 16 people in the show, and we think maybe 4 or 5 of them could actually win it.
Yeah,
You know, and he's one of them. He's got to be at the top of it, and I feel like he's throwing it away by doing that.
In a solo season. In a solo season, if Horacio gets into the final, I don't know how, I can't remember how good he is at the puzzly things from memory, and if he would beast that from a physical standpoint. I don't think there's a single person in this cast that could beat him. I think he's one of those people that physically could go up against the Jordan in a final. I don't know if he has the mental to do it. That's still to be tested. But yeah, 100%. He's playing at a handicap, and it's the handicap is himself being.
He's handicapping himself.
Yeah. So Danica here says Horacio is such a good sport, even after they deliberately lost the challenge, and he still said good job and bad luck to the team. I wonder how he feels watching it back. At least saying, I hated that Horacio blamed himself. It broke my heart. I do agree. And then Chris here saying, did Colleen not know that Michelle and Asaf were throwing the daily, or did she just not care? I feel like Colleen could have used that info to her advantage. I mean, this is where I feel like these players are just not playing at that level that we're used to. Because if this was an experienced cast and this was someone that was being sabotaged, I feel like they would have picked up on that and there would have been a bit of backlash from this. But because it's Horacio, because he doesn't really like talking to people and he doesn't always know how to deal with his own emotions, he's very introverted, nothing really came of it. You know, I think if it was Kyland's a little bit more, he's a little bit more snappy. You know, even in the comment here when Olivia, Ed, Corey, and Berna wins, you know, Kyland has some choice words for Corey in this moment. And he says that, you know, it's a weak move. And Corey takes real offense to the fact that his move is being called weak in the game. What did you think of this back and forth here between Kyland and Corey? Corey so desperately wants to be seen as a strategic player. He so badly wants to go down. But at the moment, he is doing the work. He's a lackey for that big alliance. And even me, who've been supporting Corey, I've got to say, Corey's villain arc started strong. It is really fizzling out for me now. I don't see him as this agent of chaos in the game anymore. And I can't, I can't endorse him. Like I have to jump off this bandwagon as well.
The unfortunate thing is, well, first of all, I really like that Kylan is totally okay with talking shit. Like he's happy to put it out there and actually cause a bit of that chaos that you're talking about, that Corey has dropped off. I don't think Kylan's necessarily from a bad perspective, but he's happy to stand up and actually say stuff, which I appreciate. With Corey, the unfortunate thing is, I think he was right. Like he did the right thing. He's making the smart move for his game at this point. Like, yes, he's maybe not at the tippy top of his alliance, but would he be on the other alliance as well? Like if he does throw that in, he's going to be even lower on the pecking order.
No, because he voted people out on that alliance that wanted to work with him, like Big T and Melissa. He voted the people that could have.
That's what I mean. Like he made his bed and he has to lie in it. So when he was like, it's a scared, you're playing scared. Unfortunately, with a game like this, I mentioned before pagongings, and when there is a power team that's running the show, it's boring and it feels like it's a scare game, but it's actually the right move. The calculus says that was the smart play. Like you can't always throw chaos. You can't always do that because it means that you're going to be the one that's targeted, or it's going to come back. I think he's making the right decision, even though generally it's kind of a boring decision.
Can we stay with that thought there for a second? You mentioned that we're in the chaos section of the game. Has this really felt like chaos to you, except for the fact that every now and again, TJ is like, guess what? It's another Women's Day, you know, and he's like kind of mixing up the order of how people are going in, which maybe wouldn't even have happened if Bananas didn't quit the show and went back home. We may not have had the back-to-back female sort of weeks there, which that was probably the biggest chaos part of chaos for me so far. I feel like there's more they could have done, like in this chaos segment. It could have been something, well, guess what? Now the whole losing team is going into an elimination, or we're doing a purge. We've got 16 players left in the game, Kahuna. There's 5 episodes maybe left, maybe 6 episodes. We've got 16 players in the game. Like, if you are going to bring in like a purge, bring it in during chaos. I feel like there's more they could have done. Like, a lot of people on this live will know it takes me a while to digest. I was good with the whole chaos theme up until this point, but seeing another champion go down there and again fall short and lose, it's kind of falling flat for me, this chaos piece. It's not that entertaining anymore. It's not really shaking up the game. It's like you said, it's boring, it's predictable. We've got a strong alliance that's running the game.
Yeah. I mean, the most chaotic thing is the fact that the champions are like 4 and 5 in eliminations. Like, the chaos was like, I know, we'll get the strong champions, the best of the best, and Brad, and we'll put them out there and we'll give them games that they're not good at. That's the chaotic. That's the chaos portion. That's the bit where they're like, we'll make it really unpredictable and give them games they don't know how to do. And we'll get the contenders to be up on the champions. That's how we're going to protect their legacy. We're going to make them sound like they're awesome.
They're trying to bolt the legacy of these newbies that a lot of people just, again, like I said, it feels manufactured, that how they're trying to bolt these players up into this next level. I don't think, and we'll talk about Kyland. I don't feel like Kyland's being manufactured. Like, I'm fully behind the Kyland train at the moment. I'm really enjoying what he's doing. We've just spoken about the fact that he's vocal. He will say what he's thinking. He goes up against the house. He's not afraid to pull people together to get a resurrection in regards to an alliance going up against the power structure. So I'm all behind. And he beat 2 champions fair and square. You know, like, I think there's other, maybe the Laurel, Cara Maria eliminations are a little bit more debatable if we actually put them at their strength. But this isn't an elimination that Brad should have been bad at, right? So we'll talk about that in a little bit. I do want to go back.
Yeah, you should have.
We've missed a lot of. No, Brad runs through things. He could have just basically smashed his way from the top down. But anyways, we'll talk about this. Let's say hello to a few people that have joined since now. Asia, welcome to the live. Great to have you here. Willie's saying she also had a hookup with Jordan. Not sure who that is, but there's a lot of hookups happening in the house. Maybe a Michelle or someone. I would not be surprised. Lovable Nicky is saying, thankfully, Horacio is not watching this season. He needs to eventually, though. If he does plan to return, I agree. Because I think the biggest betrayal for Horacio would be if he finds out how much smack Olivia has been talking behind his back. Because even up until this episode, he still thinks Olivia is tight with him. That conversation, Kahuna, between him and Olivia at the club, where he's bringing her in and he's like, listen, I know you're fighting for me, all this kind of stuff. Again, it breaks my heart. He's too pure for this game. He doesn't see through the fake friendship that Olivia has with him. Or, it's a harsh word. People are probably going to call me out again for going. People are going to call me out again for not liking Olivia. I don't like seeing people talk shit about their friends on the show when they're supposed to be directly addressing the drama that they have with the person that they're having the drama with. Don't like it. So maybe that triggered something in me where I'm not a big supporter of Olivia and how she's conducting her business. I'm not a supporter of how she's conducting her business this season at all. But I feel
Olivia
like
still has a lot of grace for me from last season. Like, I know last week she said the fans were so receptive of me in the first season and put a lot of pressure on me. I feel like I'm one of them. Like, I saw her performance last season with Horacio, and I guess a lot of it was tainted or colored with the fact that Horacio obviously was very, very good. But I looked at Olivia going, like, she's awesome. She's going to be a future champion. I feel like a season like this was going to be perfect for someone like Olivia. So I still have a lot of grace for her. She's got a lot of stock left to use up.
She needs to cut. Like, I'm not saying don't bring Olivia back. I'm saying hell yes, bring her back, because she has evoked an emotion in me to care enough to comment on it. You know what I mean? So if that is happening, then that is a good thing. We should want people in there that, you know, we feel a certain type of way when they're there. We're either cheering for them, we're cheering against them. I think it's good to have people like that come back. And I do agree, she could still turn it around. I just don't like how she's treating the Horacio friendship. If she's a true friend to Horacio, she would understand that everybody communicates differently. And Horacio is an introvert. He is different. And yes, Horacio should understand.
Horacio was a true friend to Olivia.
Yes, but
you'd know that she needs a little bit of talking, a little bit of attention.
100%. 100%.
Right?
But you and me, we're extroverts. We're someone that will pull someone aside and talk to them quite easily. Clearly, Horacio is someone who struggles with his emotions and articulating himself and having conversations. And in fact, I bet you he doesn't even know anything's wrong. He's just living in
I agree with
Horacio's
that.
little world and doing his own
100%.
thing while she's smack talking him. I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me. Let's catch up on the comments because we're getting really behind here. Adam Calhoun in the live, welcome, saying, I'm glad Kyland won, but I feel like they picked the worst kind of elimination for Brad. Should have done something like a pole wrestle. Going to be disappointed if they do the same with CT. I'm very surprised we haven't seen a pole wrestle. Very surprised we haven't seen a hall brawl.
Casey and Big T.
Casey got it. Yeah, Casey. So that's probably why. But it also can you imagine Cara Maria and a balls in?
Or not pole wrestle, it was storm pole or something, remember? Because it was raining.
Yeah.
They changed it.
Yeah. So it's not limited to Brad here, but I don't know what they're doing. I'm very interested to see what CT is going to do when he comes in. But I guess there's other things they could have done. I don't feel like this. We probably shouldn't go into it too much because if we do, we're going to fall even further behind. But we will come back to the elimination as well. As you're saying, that was pretty sad. Horacio thought his performance was bad. Totally agree. Reality said he said, so you're saying you're scared to. It's obviously Kyland's comment to Corey, which Corey did not like at all. Willie calling out that they did that pole wrestle with Casey. Danica saying last season, I remember Horacio not doing well and I think trivia, but I think it was more of a cultural language reason for him to miss it. I remember thinking it was unfair questions at the time. I think that could definitely play into it. Chris says Corey wants to act big and tough against the women, but backs down when Kyland says something. Okay, Corey, calling Corey out. No, Chris is not this fan of Corey either.
Didn't have the same energy he had with Big T and Melissa when it was a guy confronting him, eh?
Yeah, very true. Very true. I don't know if he's trying to compose himself, but yeah. Pete saying, not a fan of his moves, but he was right. It wasn't a scared move. He straight up said he doesn't want Horacio in the final, and I wouldn't want him there either. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pete bringing order to the chaos here in the live. Danica saying, Corey wants the good players out because a lot of good players came from competition shows. He came from a dating show. You keep mentioning it every single time. What's it called? 12 Days of Christmas. 12 Dates of Christmas. So I wonder if that's going to see a resurrection like we've seen with Suits on Netflix winning, I think, an award this year. So many years after it came out, everybody seems to be on the Suits bandwagon finally. Have you watched that show, Kahuna?
I watched it in its first run. Yeah, original run. I was from the get-go. I was a big fan of Mike.
Yeah, glad to see. I'm a big Harvey Specter fan, obviously. Got to support the man. Lena saying, on the official podcast, Kyland said Corey L's move was a smart move. It was just a scared one. Let's have a look here at what people are saying. Asia saying, I love Kyland having a reaction, even though Corey made the only decision he could, since he technically is scared to go against Horacio. Let's see what else. I might have to skip a few comments just as we're trying to catch up here. Chris is saying, leave Brad alone. He was so excited to be there. I can never be a Brad hater. All right. That stood out. That stood out for me when Brad came. It was pretty wholesome. His whole reaction to being there, the love for the game. It was a very zen Brad that we saw on the show this time around. It wasn't the same fire that we sometimes see within him.
Yeah, like I mentioned Brad, but I do like Brad. I have a soft spot for him. He is a champion and he's a legacy, as TJ put. He just felt like he maybe wasn't like in recent years would be the first pick. You know what I mean?
He's a champion. You can't say the champions and Brad. I don't even pick up on that. You can't say that. He is a champion.
He's a champion. And look, you know what? Hats off to Brad in that he did it in the last minute. Like if all rumors and reports are true, he got the call up last second, jumped on a plane, rocked up, jet lag out the wazoo, all that sort of thing, and then go into the sand and do something like that. Like it's tough, like especially if you're not knowing that you're going to go out there, you've got a few days or whatever the turnaround time is, and where they just chucked him on a plane and sent him out there. That's hard. Like I get it. So I appreciate him, but it didn't feel like if you go Laurel, Cara Maria, CT, and wedged in between those three, Brad, one of these.
Hats off, but hats off. This is not Brad's fault, and hats off to Brad for.
That's what I said. Hats off
the phone, saying, "Yeah, I'm going to be there." Like he said, he hasn't been training his cardio like he would for a normal season coming into it. Which clearly this was a mixture of cardio and physicality mixed together. Elise says here, I wish Kara had this week's elimination. I think she would have done really well if she did do this week's elimination. And she would have smoked Michelle in that elimination.
In
Because
this one, yeah, 100%.
Michelle would not have had the cardio to keep up with her. And that would have been a lot more exciting to see for me. And it would have been a big moment if they actually had that correct. So clearly production has made some mistakes. They've brought these legacy players. They've brought these legends back in the game, and they're not utilizing them correctly.
They're not utilizing. Yeah. You know how we sort of speculated that because of the last minute change from a Bananas to a Brad, maybe that's why Cara Maria would have got shifted forward a week or whatever, and maybe that was the chaotic bit. But if it really was Bananas, is Bananas going before Cara?
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably not.
Does CT go before Bananas? Does Bananas put his foot down and go, I'm Bananas, I'm the last one? And they shifted CT and Brad maybe to make CT
I feel like CT would have always gone last just based on the legacy that he has in arenas and people fearing going against them. I feel like that same fear doesn't exist for Bananas, but it definitely exists for CT. So I feel like
CT's taken a bit of a break. Like Cara, there's that anticipation of when he's coming back. He's gone through some personal stuff, and I know the fans are like gagging to see him come back as like angry CT after divorce. So let's
play that game. If Bananas did come in this spot and Brad wasn't there, does Bananas beat Kyland in this same arena?
Oh, I think it's a lot closer. I think he has a better chance of beating him than Brad did. He definitely the only thing that I can see is that there doesn't seem to be a shortcut or a meta or a trick or that edge that Bananas is so good at finding that gives him the advantage. It seems like it would be just straight up basically the endurance challenge, right? And one of the things that I think worked against Brad is that he was born in 1980. He's the same age as me. And I know that those, regardless of how healthy he is, and he looks like a beast, those knees after 43 years of kneeing and doing knee things, getting up and down through those platforms, I was just looking at it going, yeah, Kyland and Bananas is right up there with him, right? He's 41 or 40 instead of 43, but he does feel like he would be a much better, like he does this. Finals and endurance is Bananas thing, so I feel like he would have had a better shot at it, but Kyland's still in it. Like there's no distinct advantage to Bananas there.
Yeah, agreed. Let's read a few more comments and try and catch up here. Asher saying, hey guys, rooting for Michelle. Welcome back to the live. Asher, you're a brave man for saying that in this live, but I appreciate it because, you got to stand your people. And I don't know where Michelle is at the moment when it comes to challenge fans. I don't think she's all that loved in the challenge realm, but obviously she's doing her this season.
She's got people though. Some people like her.
Yeah, and she's good socially. She's doing her thing. I just don't like the way that she took out Cara Maria in a challenge that, clearly was in her wheelhouse. But you can't hate on that. That is on production. That's not on her. And, I can't see her winning the final, but I could definitely see her getting there at the moment. Like, it's going to be difficult to take her out of the game. Danica saying, I don't think Brad was really prepared for this. I hope he got paid well to lose, but at least he lost gracefully and does think Kyland earned the win. Good sport. Love Nikki had said, at this point, it is a fake friendship. Nikki, see, you and I, we're freaking on the same thing here at the moment. I'm telling you, great minds think alike. Olivia is talking about Horacio to everyone, but Horacio, all in caps. I think that's horrible. Address your drama first. You can't expect Horacio to know that he needs to do something differently if you don't address it with him. Chris is saying this isn't even drama between Olivia and Horacio. This is just two grown adults not having a conversation. Please act your age.
Yeah.
It sounded like Brad got there right in time for the elimination. He did look a bit tired. I will say that. Even coming in, it was like he looked like there was something about his aura and his energy. It was just too calm. It's not the Brad we know. Like
he said he got there that day or the night before. Like I heard him interviewing. He did get the call up. He said straight up, like, I got the call up to replace Bananas. So I appreciate that. But he said he got there and he thought it would be easy. He'd rock up, go into a limit. He goes, but I didn't account for, I was jet lagged. I flew to like wherever. He goes, I thought I'd have a good 6-hour nap, go into the sand. He goes, but knowing me, I'm so pumped for the competition. He didn't sleep. He's like thinking about what it's through. He hasn't been here in years. It's all running through his head. He's just getting more and more hyped. And he said he really wasn't prepared for it the way he should have been. And
You know
only
what?
because he was time and he was excited.
You know what, Brad? Hats off to you, man. Hats off
Yeah.
taking the call on such a short notice. And I know Brad's getting the call for an all champion season. Like, if they, after putting him through this, don't bring him back for an all champion season, I would hate on production for that. Like, the guy has done, he's been a company man. He's done what the challenge gods wanted from him. Back Brad for season 40. That's all I'm going to say. Asia saying Olivia is irrelevant and she is fighting for her life to have a storyline. Yeah, she's not winning dailies either. I think this was her first daily for the season from memory. This one that she just won because she's been complaining about not winning dailies. And how about, while we're on this Olivia thing, like, it's hard, like, you know, I don't want to make all of it about Olivia, but Jay just keeps on gaslighting. He just keeps on throwing that in. It's so cringy. Like, and she's not seeing through it. She's not seeing through his strategy of reeling her in to do his bidding.
Because that's what she's wanting from Horacio that she's not getting. She needs a prop up. She needs, like, I imagine the pretty girls with social media followings often get a lot of positive comments constantly throughout their life. And then the one person that she wants it from, her ride or die, she's not getting it and she's going the other way.
Willie says Olivia needs to understand that Horacio does care about her and that she needs to calm down. Danica says, yes, I didn't think he looked prepared. He had a bit of a hollow look to him. He was fit, but something was off, or maybe it was just the beard. Elise says, I think she is a fake friend. She knows him outside the challenge. She knows he's an introvert. So how is he acting? Shouldn't surprise her. And I think that's the difference between, if I look at the friendship between Horacio and Olivia and how Olivia is treating that, and then I look at the friendship between Nerys and Jay, who were also at loggerheads this episode. They had very different outlook on how they wanted to play the game, where they wanted to go. They're also friends outside of the game, and I felt like they dealt with it completely different. They were having different conversations between the two of them. Even though they're not in agreement, you can tell that there's respect, and they're not shit-talking each other behind their back because they're not in the same page right now, because apparently Nerys and Jay, they've been friends for about 5 years now as well, outside of the game. So that's a real-life friendship as well. To me, if you look at Nerys and Jay, that is what friendship looks like, not what Olivia is displaying towards Horacio. That's not friendship, in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, Olivia, what am I supposed to say? Like, I can't defend Olivia when the entire chat.
Right.
I need to get Nikki and Chris back on my side.
I'm just handing you the shovel. I'm continuing to hand you the shovel here, but we can move on. We don't need to go into it too much. There's a lot of people that are agreeing with us here. Everybody's pretty much saying, she's talking to everyone but Horacio. Chris also said Brad beat Landon. That is hard to do. Anyone who can take down Landon is a force in my book. 100%.
Is Horacio a bit of a Landon? Like, obviously an incredible competitor, very physical, but refuses to like play the social game and the politics and be all integrity based.
From that aspect, maybe.
And play it dumb.
Nah, but I also think Landon, I feel like Landon was, I get where you're coming from, and there's definitely some similarities, but I do think that Horacio was more aware of the alliances and was more aware of how he needed to move to be in between them. Like, I think Horacio played it on, Landon played an on-purpose middle game that he actually did with a plan in mind, where with Horacio, I just think he's falling into that by not knowing what's going on, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I feel like he's maybe playing an unintentional Landon-like game, where I feel like Landon played intentionally like that. He knew what he was doing. So that he always had options.
Important distinction as well.
Yeah. So Brian says, it seems like the champs really haven't had that edge, maybe because they don't know the cast or haven't been immersed in the season. Also, if they're flying in with short notice, hard to compete, they're not in the middle of game mode. I did have a look at Cara Maria and Paulie's podcast. They started a podcast. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. After Cara Maria jumped in, and I forgot the name of it. I wish I remembered it. So I could shout it out. Someone in the live, pop it in if you know it. I'm sure there are people who know it. And she spoke about going out there, spending some time in the hotel room, doing like a lot of push-ups, getting amped up to go do this thing, and she ends up getting puzzles, right? So it's like, you're not in game mode. You're not doing dailies where you're practicing that part of your brain. She's been doing CrossFit workouts for the last 3 years since she's not been on the show. She's not necessarily practiced that part and then she gets that. So I feel like it's very hard to go from your normal life into immediately beast mode when these people have been playing for weeks now. They've been doing these kinds of challenges for weeks now, and they're in that mindset of the game. So I think that is also tough to come into. So
I just imagine
when
you go on annual leave from work, even after a week, but like if you take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you come back and you forgot your passwords, and like you have to get back into you get into a zone. Like you're not in the habit or the practice of it. Your body has adapted to Christmas time and chilling and drinking.
You're like, how did I used to be this productive in an 8-hour day? Like, how can I get back to that level of productivity, basically? Let's keep moving through some of the comments here. Jane saying, it was nice seeing Brad. One of the main reasons I love the show is for the familiar faces. It felt good seeing them on screen. And I think for that reason alone, it is great to get champions coming back. To me, it's been one of the more exciting parts of the show has been who's next, who are we going to see next, and how are they going to do in these arenas. But like I said, it's just fallen a little bit short, I guess, from if you're results focused. If you're results focused, it would have been nice. But then again, you could also argue the opposite and say 4 and 5, not that far off. CT can still make it. CT can still make it 5-5. Yeah. I mean, if there's ever somebody to put your money on, it's CT, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's going to win next week against anyone because we know he's getting chaos, right? I think we saw that in the trailer thing. Like he pulls the mace, so he's going to pick whoever he wants and he'll win.
So Chris is saying there's no way Bananas was going to compete in this elimination. It had to be originally for a different champ. So Chris believes Bananas would have had the choice of which one. So when he said yes to coming onto the show, they would have probably given him a choice, Kahuna, of which one of the arenas, because none of the other champions got that. Do you reckon Bananas really does have that sway, and he would have been able to easily choose which one of the eliminations he wanted to do down there? Because there's been a lot of rumors about Bananas pretty much running production for years now.
Yeah, like whether he actually dictates it himself and has the choice, or they just a bit of a sweetheart deal and give him the things that will work best for him as well. You know what I mean? So
it would have been that one where the one that Darrell lost. I feel like those circus carnival tricks where he had to like balance the platform.
I mean, he said that's like his thing. He goes, I'm very good at doing dumb games.
Yeah, exactly. It's a skill.
Yeah.
Joanne says, I think they would have put Johnny, then Kara, because Kara was doing comeback. We've been seeing Johnny around for a couple of seasons now. At least this, but Johnny would beat James. That would have been fun. Like I'm kind of gutted we didn't get to see him go up there and choose James. But yeah, it is what it is. Danica saying you can't put the Bananas backpack ahead of the man who carried the banana. It's true. That's why I think CT would have been definitely the last one to come in. Chris saying that if it was an order, Bananas would have had Kara's challenge and Kara would have had this one. I could see Kara doing well in this challenge easily. And I'm really gutted we didn't get to see Kara do this one, to be honest. But I'm biased because I'm a Kara fan.
If Kara did this one, it would have been just as one-sided as Michelle beating Kara in a puzzle.
Yeah, just the other way around. And all the Michelle fans would have been very upset about that and be like, they picked it for Cara Maria because they knew she's going to be good at the physical side of it and the cardio side of it. So you can never please anyone.
Opposite. Yeah, you can't please everyone.
You can't please everyone. You're always going to annoy someone down the way. Okay, Lovely said, especially when Jay was eliminated before Olivia, the gaslighting is crazy. Yes, like he's talking like he was there. Like how Olivia made the final.
Also, when he was there, someone mentioned in the comment before, like he had any say over anything happening that season. Him and Michelle were constantly at the bottom getting thrown in. And he was like, that's not why we threw you in.
The tea being spilled here by Reality Realness with 3 S's, saying, I think Nerys and Horacio followed Jay. So a 5-year friendship down the drain.
Into it at reunion. So,
oh really?
So you said they were friends for 5 years or something. I think that's
5 years.
To an end.
5 years prior to this game, and it's interesting because you could see Nerys starting to get her back up a little bit this episode, because I think it didn't sit well, obviously, with Nerys sitting in that conversation, seeing what Jay did with Olivia, stirring the pot. And she's like, Olivia's friends with this person and you're ruining that friendship by being who you're being right now. Can you back off a little bit? Horacio is a good guy. So she really didn't enjoy seeing that side of Jay, the conniving side of him. And it must be hard when you play this game, Kahuna, and you're in the circle of challenge friendships. Like, how do you distinguish between who's real friends and fake friends for the sake of getting you on another season, potentially working with you? Because I feel like that's one of the things that when Cara Maria was getting burned out towards the end of her run, a lot of people were coming pretty hard on her. And I was like, well, she did so many seasons unbroken that her life was the challenge. She was pretty much friends with people from the challenge, being on the show on the challenge. Like, how would she have been able to differentiate between real life and game? And I feel like that's probably something here that's happening with some of these people as well, all being so connected outside of the game that sometimes your real friendships you will question and be like, well, were you only friends with me because there was a chance of me playing a season with you? And in Reese's case, they've been friends for a lot longer than that, but they've been both in the MTV circle for a while now.
Yeah, it's tough. I think it's got to be what you mentioned before, is that like someone said, be an adult and just talk. Like, I think you have to be clear and honest with your communication and going into a season, because they all pregame. Like what Michelle does well, you've mentioned so many times, is her socializing before the season, in between seasons, is where Michelle does a lot of her magic. And what a lot of people have done for the longest time, the Vacation Alliance is built in between seasons, so that when they're in the season, it works so well. And I think if you can, before the season starts, if Olivia and Horacio had a conversation, if Nerys and Jay had well, they obviously did, but if you're going in with a friend and you say, look, no matter what happens in the game, it doesn't affect outside. That's really hard, like I know, but we need to sort of get our head around the fact that it's a show, it's a game, it's money. We're going to play a game like I would be kicking your ass on FIFA, or, you know, like whatever. Like, if we play a game together, if we play Monopoly, you're not going to hate me for beating you in Monopoly. So we need to keep that same energy in the game, even though it's for $500,000 and we're living there, and it's harder. But I think if you can get to the point where you just go, look, this is my friend and we're going to go head to head and play a game, I'm hoping it's enough. But it's tough when you're in there and you're surrounded by it, and the mental sort of side of that becomes a very, very different proposition that I don't think anyone in the normal world really comprehends what it's like being on TV, on camera, in a house with other people, all doing the same thing, getting constant criticism, all that. It's tough.
Yeah. But I mean, they're making some bank being out there, so
absolutely.
I
don't think they want it any other way. They want all of that smoke, but the smoke is still, hard.
It's the price you pay for fame at the end of the day, you know. And Elise mentions the Invite Only podcast. That is the name for the Paulie and Cara Maria podcast. It's called the Invite Only podcast. You can find it on YouTube. That is where I checked it out. It just randomly got shown up on my feed, so I was like, yeah, I'll give it a listen. Why not? So yeah, go check that out. She talks a little bit about how she prepared going in, and I think they've got maybe like 4 or 5 episodes there. I don't know how closely they'll follow it. It seems like everybody is bringing out podcasts these days, right? Chris calling out here saying, "Sir," with a question mark, "I never said bananas would get picked, or would get to pick which elim he would play. What the fuck?" Lol. Chris, you know me. I take a little bit of what you give, and then I add some sprinkle on top. You know, like you can't just leave it there. You know, you need to blow it up a little bit for the sake of conversation. You should know me by now. It's what I do.
Get him, Chris. Get him.
Sam says, I think Horacio heard all of the BS about him not being that good and winning elims because of the vets helped them, and just realized that everyone was on some BS. I'm not saying I agree, but I get it. Also says, I think he is talking to people, just not people who are fake, because if he was super silent, how would he get close to Nerys, Olivia, Zaza, and Kyland? I think so. I think he's probably seeing through the BS, and he's like, I'm just not going to deal with some of the people in here. Danica says, Kiwi, some jobs do it, but usually only 1 or 2. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Dora's saying, hey, everyone.
Kiwi Skirt made a comment before about how you can tell we're not from America because I mentioned 2 to 3 weeks annual leave.
Oh, right.
And my heart hurt a little bit. I was like, oh, my company, I just started my company a couple of months ago, like we all know, and is an American company with a brand new branch in Australia. There's only 4 of us in Australia with 1,000+ in America. So head corporate, and so all our policies and procedures, and I'm reading it just horrified at the working conditions that US people have to put up with. Like, as far I was like, do I get annual leave here? Because according to this, they don't get a lot. Like, so that's what she's talking about. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. There's a big difference there.
I couldn't do 1 or 2 weeks max. Like that would just like hats off to everybody that only get like 1 or 2 weeks leave
And
per
it's
year.
combined. So my company is
Yeah.
20 days. So no, it's 12 days, including sick leave. It's just all paid time off, whether it's sick, annual, whatever. They just have one little tiny pool that is less than our normal annual leave plus sick leave.
I normally get to the point where I have to take unpaid leave because I like taking leave and traveling and doing stuff.
Buy purchase leave. We can purchase leave here.
We could purchase leave as well, which is insane. Like it's a completely different podcast. But Dolores saying, "Hey everyone, a little late to this banging party, but I made it. Both of you are looking great. Thank you so much, Dolores. We really appreciate it. Great to have you back as well." Lovable Nikki says the reason that Horacio is not the new Landon is Horacio is not good TV. Horacio is great in competition. Landon was great in competitions and did silly stuff in the house. So just a better character overall. There's a few people that have not liked you comparing Landon and Horacio at all. Because Landon's
can see it if you squint,
Landon's a sweetheart.
If you look really like if you squint and blur your eyes, you go, okay, maybe
You're grasping. Stop it, good at this point. Ash is saying, wow, Kahuna, what an incredible, empathetic breakdown. Thank you. I think that is, and you could correct me, but it's probably because of like talking about how difficult it is for people in the game, being outside of the game, and how it's hard for us to comprehend sometimes what these people go through for our entertainment. But, you know, like I said, there is a payoff. They do get a bit of fame that comes with that. Most challengers have got a pretty healthy Instagram following. I've always noticed it's a lot higher than a lot of the other shows. Like you don't even see Survivor players get as high of a following as challengers, which has always been very interesting.
They live a pretty good life.
Yeah, I agree. Lovable Nikki saying this is a part of the problem with how BMP cast now. Butter Money Productions, they're not vetting the cast. They're relying on these other reality shows casting. But to me, that's not the problem, Lovable Nikki. Like that, like you can. There's some great other reality TV show characters out there. They're just not choosing the right ones. That's been my problem for a very long time. I've been saying it for a very long time. If you go to Big Brother, there are better people you can cast from previous seasons that they're not casting. They're casting people that, in my opinion, weren't even the most entertaining people on their season. Casey was never the most entertaining person on his season. Fessy was never the most entertaining person on that season. They were a snooze fest. Josh he's a good casting. Like, we don't like him, but he's a good casting. Like, you have to say, even in his Big Brother season, he was very, he was controversial and was out there banging pots and pans, waking people up in the house. Like, he was always the Josh that you see. He's kind of like that bigger, larger than life personality that a lot of people don't like. But there are better people that they can choose. Similar for Survivor. They've only recently started tapping into better Survivor characters in my mind.
Yeah.
So we're saying the same thing, Chris. That is BMP not vetting. Okay, yeah. They're not. So I get what you're saying. So meaning they're not, yeah. I was thinking of vetting, like normally you do vetting when you've got a new cast coming in, but from a newbie perspective. But I get what you're saying. They're not vetting the right people to come in from other shows. They just hear so-and-so is available. Well, if they're available, they probably don't have much going on for them in any case with like Survivor. Like the people who are getting on it, like Michelle, she's played Winners at War. You've had, and she is a big character. I think Michelle's one of the better castings. But Jay, for instance, let's use him for a better example. When he made that leap over to the challenge, he was completely off the radar to ever come back for Survivor. The people that are on the radar, those are the people you want to bring over. You don't want to bring people that have fallen off the radar because they've probably fallen off the radar for
a reason,
certain reasons. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, that's my thoughts on that. Let's see if there's anything else. Brian says, Jay, it's got boring and it's time to play the game. The challenge ratings, I concur. Yeah, the challenge ratings are not doing well this season at all, and it hasn't really recovered. Chris Kahuna, unpaid leave equals no job. You're fired or quit. Whoa, that is crazy. That is crazy that it's that aggressive. You see, that's why I've got friends who live in America, and I've traveled to America a few times now, and I love traveling to America. Like my last trip in Florida, absolutely freaking loved it. I want to go back to Florida. It was amazing, right? But I've always been asked, would you ever move to America? And I'm always like, no. Like, and people that my American friends are always shocked, and they're like, why would you not want to live in the greatest country in the world? And I'm like, well, if you're only getting 2 weeks paid leave, we get 4 weeks. We can pay for our leave. I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily like. I want to live. I don't want to live to work. I want to work to live, if that makes sense. That's a great example. Plus, I do think healthcare as well in America is just it's so expensive compared to other places, you know. So that would be my main reasons. Chris, happy to hear you like Florida. We always provide the best to our visitors. I absolutely loved it. Like I'm looking for an excuse to come back, to be honest. Let's see here. Joanne saying, I'm not going to lie. There are not a lot of non-real world challenges that I enjoy personally. Real world challenges. Oh, okay.
Your bias is showing.
But that's where the show started, was real world versus what was the other one?
Road rules.
Road rules, yeah.
Cara Maria's not a real world. Laurel's not a real world. They're fresh meat.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, new legends can be made, but it's, again, we spoke about it. They were built over time. They weren't I think what the challenge did wrong was they didn't keep with some of the rookies that they brought in over certain years. They had these rookies come in and they just discarded off them. So we haven't grown with them for long enough to care enough. And now they're trying to do all of it in a season by building these new contenders and new champions. I still feel like a champions versus contenders season type of season could be interesting in the future. That could be something that, you know, could be entertaining to see, because they're calling the champions out. Like Jay, even this episode had that whole thing about, well, we're beating these guys now. You know, Michelle's just beating Cara Maria. Like they kind of talk the talk right now. But I want to see them followed up in a full season, Kahuna.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that perhaps our bar or our standards have changed and shifted over years, because I feel like in the early seasons, the requirements the fans had of the people was not that. And this is what I'm talking about now, is that I feel like early seasons, like the reverence and the deifying that the fandom has for the OG people, some of those people weren't built up over seasons either. You know what I mean? Like when we think about some of the most hardcore people, like Landon, I think, what did he do? Like 4 seasons? Like people like an Evelyn is 7 seasons total, whereas Tori's already up to a 10 or 11. And, you know, like when you, like, we think about these OG people as this decades long legacy that they built up. So, but it was just, I think we were just more open and accepting of the randomness because of the way the reality TV landscape was, and coming from the real world. I think we're a bit harsher now on accepting some of these people, especially on a season like this. They're just like, nah, not taking it. Like, give me the old school. I don't know what it is, but I do think we've shifted the way we accept and what we allow from these people, and it's a harder bar to jump over for them.
Yeah, it's to a certain degree, I do agree with you there as well. I feel like we probably have gone over everything here for this episode, unless there was something sort of that you wanted to bring up, that you wanted to talk about. I think we've spoken about most of the main points. If there's anything in the live that people want us to talk about or get into, let us know if you feel like we missed on anything. I'm seeing a lot of people here commenting on, you know, what we've mentioned about America. I think it was Joanne who said team free healthcare. There we go. So Canada. So you're in Canada, Joanne. Is that right? I didn't realize that, because Canada's got some Canada's very similar to New Zealand in their policies, I always feel like. And obviously lived in New Zealand for quite a long time. And then Pete also said something about the Hobbits, and then I've seen Kiwi talk about living in Hobbit land, basically, because obviously I've been to Hobbiton as well. So if you're a big Lord of the Rings fan, I know a lot of people love that. There's a lot of chat going on about the gators over in Florida and the Australians calling them swamp puppies. I've never heard that terminology before. Kona, you're an Australian. Have you heard
swamp
that
puppies?
Because we get big alligators over here, though. We get massive.
Oh, Crocs. Yeah, we probably do that thing where it might be one of those things where we just make things up just to trick Americans and try to convince them that it's real.
Nice. Yeah, free healthcare. I think there's a lot of countries outside of America that does have that. It's crazy. But we don't want to go into that too much. We don't want to get into any of that political stuff.
Even the TNT Politics podcast.
Yeah. If you want that, it's a different show. But yeah, I think that is it here for this week. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking part in the conversation this week. It has been great to have you here. Like I said, last week we did extremely well. Let's hope that we can get this video over 1,000 views again this week. It'll be amazing. Put a like on this, comment below with any of your thoughts after the live if you weren't able to jump in the live to chat with us. And we will be back next week, same time, same place, 6 p.m. Friday Eastern Standard Time over in America to talk about the latest episode. And it's going to be a big one, Kuna. How excited are you to see CT back on the screen?
I'm going to rip your head off and eat it.
He looked menacing as well. I feel like if there was one person that they got there maybe a week before the daily arena challenge, it would have been CT, because there's one person you don't want to break their legacy. It's CT, man. Like, I feel like he's one of the GOATs. He's one of the 2 GOATs on the show. So I'm excited to see what is going to happen next week. But for now, everybody, thank you so much. Have a great night. Have a great day wherever you are in the world. And we will catch you guys next time. Bye.